All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Monday, June 3rd. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. So, Clayton, we're here in the studio. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
So, for all the people watching on YouTube, this is the way you got to experience the BO Boys on YouTube. If you're only listening to the podcast, you're only getting half the story. And what a story we have this weekend, because we had a lot of new releases, and we got... Man, oh man, just when we thought it was bad for Furiosa last week and we were burying Furiosa, there is a new depth to which Furiosa could be buried after what happened this weekend. It is, you didn't think you could sink lower, and Furiosa has managed to find itself pretty much in the center of the box office earth right now.
Yeah, let's plow over Furiosa, because number one, the Garfield movie made $14 million, down 42%. It added 73 theaters. It's at $51.5 million in its second weekend of release. Number two, oh no.
Wow.
IF.
Yeah.
Made $10.8 million, down 33%. It lost 285 theaters. It's at $80.4 million in its third weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, $10.75 million, down 59%. It added 60 theaters. It's at $49.6 million in its second weekend of release. Number four, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes made $8.8 million, down 34%. It lost 100 theaters. It's at $139.9 million in its fourth weekend. And rounding out your top five, The Fall Guy, $4.2 million, down 30%. It lost 129 theaters. It's at $80.2 million in its fifth weekend of release. That is your top five. And then we're just going to jump down to 8 quickly.
Okay.
In a Violent Nature, IFC Films, $2.1 million in only 1,426 theaters in its first weekend. It's no Late Night with the Devil, but this movie cracking $2 million, that's some good stuff.
I mean, let's stay on that In a Violent Nature for a second, because it's pretty close to Late Night with the Devil, which I was surprised by. We both thought, In a Violent Nature, it's got the hook. It's not quite hardcore Henry POV, but it is interesting following the slasher character as your protagonist. And so we figured this would do well.
Yeah.
But it came pretty close, because Late Night with the Devil, I think, did 2.8 in its opening weekend, and that was heralded as a huge underground smash. So In a Violent Nature has come, 700,000 below that. It's. I would say this is an overperformer, and IFC has to be very happy with what this did, because I can't imagine this movie cost. You think it made its budget back at this point? Is this a $2 million movie?
I mean, maybe not the budget back, but I do think that this thing will make money.
Yes, this violent
IFC.
Movie will get out of the red for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, this is huge. It's gonna, these IFC Shudder collabs, this is the year of the collab, and IFC Shudder, it's not quite Godzilla x Kong, but IFC X Shudder is quite the collab we have going right now. Skinamarink, Rinky Dink, you've got Late Night with the Devil, and now you got In a Violent Nature. I love this collab.
I think the problem with In a Violent Nature, if there is a problem here, is that the audience score is pretty low on it, at least when you're talking Rotten Tomatoes. But I think that is only because they, as much as they maybe expected something different, I do think that this movie got people who still thought it was going to be a slasher.
Right.
And were like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. So therefore they, dinged it a little bit. I don't think that's going to keep people from going to see this movie, though, going forward.
Right.
Because once you know what it is, I do think that there's going to be people who are going to really want to see this.
Yeah, I think that there was some amount of people who went to see a slasher, and they're like, it's a slasher movie. It's going to be about hot co-eds getting slashed. And in between the slashings, I'm going to hang out with the hot co-eds and see them, do what they do.
Now, this
before
is
they
an
get
audience
slashed.
member. This isn't you.
This is an audience. This is a hypothetical, typical audience
Yeah,
member.
not you.
Not me.
Okay.
No, well, listen, you know it's not me because if it was me, I'd want it to be Hardcore Henry from the POV of the slasher. Like, I
Yeah.
want to see out of the eyes of the slasher,
Yes,
not just
yes.
follow him or her or slasher people.
Them, yeah.
I would want to be inside the body, the soul, the mind, the eyes of the slasher. So this is not me, but a typical audience member is going to want to see co-eds doing co-ed things in between getting slashed, and I could see that disconnect causes a low cinema score.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely possible.
But this is another example of hashtag horror lifestyle, hashtag horror always wins, bread of the new flesh. I could just imagine him this weekend seeing these numbers come in for In a Violent Nature, and he just knows business is good.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a baby to feed, a baby to clothe, and In a Violent Nature just gives him those horror bucks that he needs to feed mother and baby.
Oh, yeah. He's
Yeah.
putting nappies on that baby with that.
Yeah, with this In a Violent Nature BO, that's good for Brett. And what's good for Brett is good for us. So congratulations, Brett, on horror doing well again this weekend. You know, before we get into the top of the list here, and I'm seeing conflicting top 10 lists, honestly, between the numbers and deadline. We're recording this on Sunday night. And for instance, on the numbers top 10, they're not showing us Summer Camp coming in the top 10. The Diane Keaton, Kathy Bates, you know, reunion at a summer camp, women of a certain age getting into a certain type of trouble movie. The numbers is not showing that in their top 10, right? But Deadline has Summer Camp finishing number 10 with a 3-day of $1.06 million.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on there.
They don't have a 10 at the moment. They don't have a 10 at the moment because it looks like they're maybe not. They didn't get those numbers yet.
Yes, from this RSA distributor here. So let's talk Summer Camp for a brief second. Let's go with the Deadline numbers, which says that this movie made $1 million. Are we ready to say that this women of a certain age getting into trouble genre is DOA?
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the previous episode, there would have to be such a huge value add here, somebody that we haven't seen yet.
And Jane Fonda feels like as big of a star as you're going to get in these, and she's been in a few already.
But I think you'd need somebody new and surprising. I don't know who that would be.
I would say if she hadn't passed, you know, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mum.
Well, definitely.
That would have been big to get Queen Mum in an 80 for Brady type movie.
I feel she's so much older than those ladies, though.
I think once you hit a certain age,
be careful.
Well, no. Once
be careful.
Once you hit a certain age,
you got to be really careful here, Pat.
Once you hit a certain age, then the genre. I'm saying for the genre, not for people, for the way you treat people, anything like that. But the genre of this movie is basically, say, 60 and up.
Okay.
And I think that up could go. There's not a ceiling on how old you could be to be in one of these Diane Keaton women of a certain age movies.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying is there's no limit.
Yeah.
You know, you could have a 103-year-old woman in these movies, even if the other women are all 60.
There just doesn't happen to be any stars that are 102.
Yes, there are right now no 100-year-old movie stars.
Yeah.
That you could pluck and put into one of these Diane Keaton vehicles. Who would be the, you know, if this is 2 years ago, I do think it is the Queen Mum is the big star you're trying to get. You know. She'd be acting for the first time ever. So right there is huge.
That's huge.
And, you know, all of the palace intrigue and all that kind of thing would be built in there. It'd be a big deal, I think, if the Queen Mum had been in 80 for Brady to upstage who's her daughter-in-law that she doesn't like, who's on Suits.
Markle.
Yeah, Meghan Markle. Like, I think if Queen Elizabeth had been pulled into, you know, book club too.
Well, Markle's not a movie star. She's a TV star.
She's a TV star, and the Queen Mum would have been
like, I'm in movies. This is better.
Movies. Yeah.
Yeah, this is better.
So I don't know who do you think that summer camp could have gotten in to be in there with Alfre Woodard, Kathy Bates, Diane Keaton, that would have really meant something at the box office.
Meant something at the box office.
Yeah,
I mean,
who
that's
was the oldest woman that could have been in this? That's a viable, and she hasn't been in one of these before. So it can't be Lily Tomlin. It can't be Rita Moreno. You know, they've been in these movies already.
I mean, I guess it shows our real lack of diversity when it comes to
Extremely
old female stars.
Yeah, that there's
not
90
anybody that
plus.
comes right to my mind.
Right. Yeah, it would have to be someone who's known for being old. Like, you'd almost have to go through when they do the happy 100th birthdays on the Today Show and just you'd have to pluck someone from the Guinness books. I think, would that mean anything in a movie like Summer Camp if they said starring Diane Keaton, Academy Award winner Kathy Bates, Academy Award nominee Alfre Woodard, and the world's oldest woman?
According to Guinness.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't think they're going to get a chance to try that because this movie did so poorly.
Yeah. It's I was looking in the Deadline article. They mentioned that the highest grossing theater for summer camp was
in hospice.
Well,
attached to a hospice.
It was attached to a hospice in Asheville, North Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah, so Asheville had a particular affinity for this movie, and I wonder why that is.
Asheville's actually a pretty hip neighborhood, though.
Right.
So you don't think old people when you think of Asheville, North Carolina.
No, it is. It's sort of the one. You know, it's like the new Austin in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now that in Austin you could say anything you want, you know, that's Austin's taken that as their new thing.
Yeah.
Nashville's become like the cool place. And I wonder if that means that if I was someone who has one of these scripts right now, or like a producer who is attached to, you know, Book Club 3 or whatever the new Diane Keaton movie is, that's the one thing you can hang your hat on, is like Asheville may be showing that these movies are about to get really cool because the old people are cool in the cool town.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing they can hang their hat on. But all that said, I think these type of movies are pretty dead. If there's not already one in the can, I don't think it's going to be greenlit for theatrical.
Now, let's be positive.
Yes.
Because we've had such bad news lately.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget, number 4, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sizable hit.
Yes.
And this movie is getting really close to the domestic cume of the last film in the Franco trilogy.
Yes, The War for the Planet of the Apes is the third and final film of the James Franco Apes trilogy.
Yeah, and so that is good news.
Yes.
And that movie came out 4 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like 1,000 years ago because of all the bad news we've been getting.
Yep.
But, there are movies doing well. Now, are there movies doing superhero circa 2019 well?
Right.
No.
There's not an end game in this top 10.
Of course not. But even circa 2017, is there anything? But no. And that's the thing, is the expectation for that is too much. You can't expect a Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes or a Planet of the Apes movie to do superhero business, obviously.
Right.
But as a movie that is getting butts in the seats, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that this Planet of the Apes movie is going to do more than the last one did, because right now, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is at $139.9 million. I think it's $7 million away from surpassing War. And that's what you want to see if any franchise, is that the trajectory is still up.
Yeah.
You know, the worst case for this would have been this came in 10 to 15 million lower than the last movie. Then you get into Ghostbusters territory where you start to think, do we continue with this franchise? Because that's where Ghostbusters clearly is. And we've talked about that, whether they should chance it by doing another one. But with the Apes movies, listen, apes are hot. Apes are hot. It's not just the collab.
Yep.
Apes are hot. And he is, you know, we talk about the lack of incredibly old women to star in these Diane Keaton movies.
Yeah.
There is a very old man that Apes makes me think of, and that is Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
The success of this Planet of the Apes movie and the success of the collab with Kong, is it time for Clint Eastwood, and I don't know if he directs this or he just stars in it, but is this time for Clint Eastwood to do another Any Which Way But Loose film?
Wow.
Apes are hot.
Yeah.
Apes are hot.
Well, those are orangutans.
Right.
So I guess they're.
I think
they're
they would.
apes. Yeah, I mean they would. Nobody's gonna like parse that in a way that's gonna kibosh that and say, well, they're orangutans, not apes. I mean,
Right.
I think the general genre of primates
Mm-hmm.
is hot, so you
Yes.
could do that.
I think you could do that. I
Yeah.
think. And Eastwood is always trying to get his directorial movies, financed, and I guess Warner Brothers isn't what it used to be in terms of.
He could be like, this one's for you.
Yeah, I'll give you Any Which Way But Loose Apes movie.
Yeah.
And listen, you said the previous ones were orangutans, but he could make that concession of like, I'll do a gorilla movie.
Yeah.
It'll be me and a gorilla and get an old gorilla. And it's that these two retired cops, one is Clint Eastwood and one is an old gorilla, get thrown back onto a case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there also could be an element of like they haven't seen each other in years.
Yep, something happened.
Something happened. They broke apart over a woman or something.
Right.
And then only they can solve this crime
Yes.
because it has to do with something that a case they had in the past.
Yes.
So
yes.
Clint would be like, I don't want to work with this orangutan anymore. I did. Something happened. I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But they're the only two people who can solve this case.
Right, because it's like the Zodiac killer is back.
Uh-huh.
And previously Clint Eastwood and this gorilla had been the closest anyone's ever gotten to solving the Zodiac case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
And the Zodiac killer is old too.
And the Zodiac killer
And
would
he
be
wants
so old.
And he wants to kill. He wants one final kill and get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that is a movie you could do to capitalize on these apes. And it's maybe a way to get Diane Keaton, Lily Tomlin, get them some work if their genre is now.
I think the only one, if you really want this to be a hit, Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
Jane Fonda is the woman that the orangutan and Clint Eastwood had a falling out over.
Right. And she's also the one who the Zodiac killer is writing letters to.
Is targeting.
Yeah. Yeah, that is how you capitalize on Apes Are Hot right now. Fall Guy at number 5. I just want to bring this up as we go into talking about Furiosa. Fall Guy, when that came out, incredibly disappointing opening weekend, and we all were hoping that it would be a huge hit, cement Ryan Gosling as which he is a movie star, but really cement him as a
leading man,
full on
non-IP
movie star.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. But in comparison to Furiosa, the Fall Guy really gets the spotlight taken away in terms of it bombing because of what Furiosa is doing. Like, I think the Fall Guy is
no longer the Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy is
He's
no longer
the Fall Guy
for
the failure of the summer movie season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a situation where you're the dumb kid in class and it's a spelling bee or a math bee, and you get the wrong answer and everyone's laughing at you and they're throwing spitballs at you.
Yeah.
And then some other kid comes up next and he spells the word "and" wrong. It's like he gets a W and a Q in there, and it's just a historically
bad spelling.
And that original dumb kid is off the hook. And that is Fall Guy is that original dumb kid who Furiosa came along in the spelling bee and just started dropping Q's and X's in the spelling of a 3-letter word.
Because at the end of the day, if the Fall Guy reaches, which it's probably not going to reach Bullet Train.
But it's at 80. It's just made a $4 million weekend. Like, Fall Guy could get itself to a respectable 90 million domestic, which we all know is not good in comparison to the budget.
Yeah.
But when Fall Guy gets itself to 90 million, you'll at least be able to look at it and say, people went to see it.
Mhm.
You know, the versus the budget is a different conversation.
Yeah.
But a movie like Fall Guy making 90, you could at least say it's not like no one wanted to see this.
Yeah. People don't go see a movie so that it can make back its budget. They go
Right.
see a movie because they want to see it.
Right. And so, but when you look at what Furiosa is at now, which is after it's 49 million and
Boing.
just so dropping like a stone, like Furiosa does start to feel like a movie that is going to top out in the 60s. I don't
So-
think Furiosa gets to 70 million domestic at this point.
It didn't do a Morbius drop, but the thing with that is
It opened lower than
it
Morbius.
opened lower than Morbius. So yeah.
Yeah, it did a Morbius Friday, and the great podcast Jesus Kirk Minahan, who is going to be a guest very soon,
Mm-hmm.
texted me on the Friday about the 71% Friday to Friday drop.
Yeah.
And then the weekend did level out. And, you know, the Friday drops are always bigger because they incorporate
Yeah.
the Thursday
Thursday,
preview
yeah,
number
yeah,
from the
yeah.
weekend before. But it was starting to look like, could this be a Morbius drop? And it didn't get there. But Furiosa is totally dead. I think in a way that Fall Guy wasn't after its second weekend.
No. Even though, I mean, people still say, I don't understand. I liked it. You know, I mean, Furiosa is not a disliked movie. Neither was Fall Guy.
Mm-mm.
But this sort of critical love isn't translating to must see.
No. And I think with Fall Guy, it's just a more accessible movie.
Mm-hmm.
Fall Guy is even if you're not dying to see it, it is just an action comedy romance. Again, the genre was a problem. What is the genre?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Furiosa is a little bit, I mean, kind of is playing like thinky sci-fi, but not thinky sci-fi that like Dune and Dune 2 become an event.
Mm-hmm.
It's thinky sci-fi that people feel. I do feel like people feel intimidated by Furiosa. Almost the critical reputation of Fury Road has turned this Mad Max franchise from dumb fun into something that feels too much like homework.
Yeah, there's a little of that. Absolutely.
Like, I almost blame the fans of Fury Road for making Furiosa feel impenetrable
Mm-hmm.
instead of just being a series in which Tina Turner could have been the star. Like, that's where we used to be with those movies.
I think you nailed it in the sense that it does
I did.
feel like it's supposed to be serious
Right.
in a way that even Fury Road had a guy that played guitar on the back of a car.
Right.
And that was like fun and weird and stupid. And it feels like they forgot those elements of this, that it's supposed to be goofy, weird people dressed in crazy outfits huffing stuff, which is what Fury Road was.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden became this movie about, you know, trauma and all that. And it's like, there is elements of that with hero stories, of course.
Yeah.
But it became more of an art film.
Yeah.
And these are not, nobody wants to see an art film like this.
Yeah, and I don't even know, because we haven't seen this movie, so it's not even about whatever the movie is. I do think it's more about the perception of what
But that's what I mean.
these movies are.
But they
you know?
also are forgetting that Fury Road had a guy that played guitar, and that was goofy and cool.
Right.
Like, that's an element that has been forgotten about that movie.
Yes.
In the sense that it became this like great art piece.
Right.
And it was just a dumb, fun movie.
Right.
And with this, it does feel like homework.
Yeah, and the I guess value, the entertainment element of this was supposed to be provided by Chris Hemsworth. Chrissy Hemme.
Are we gonna say it? I mean,
at this point, does he hold any power over the BO boys?
I mean, will this break the studio? I mean, we are in the new studio.
We're in a new studio.
Think about this.
We've got multiple cameras. Hey guys, we have close-up cams. Hey guys.
If we go through with this, and we say his name, we speak his name.
We speak his name, yeah.
Those cameras could break.
Right.
That computer could break.
Yes.
That pod track could break.
We've
These
got
mics could break.
lights around us. We're not using fluorescent ceiling lights. So if
No.
you're only listening to the podcast, you're not getting what we are showing you right now on YouTube. We've got actual lights around us, but these lights could just explode and set us on fire at any second.
Yeah, this could
If
be a
Chrissy Hemme, I'm going to be careful for right now.
Thank you.
Chrissy Hemme takes vengeance upon us, like he did several years ago when we lost an episode for mentioning him.
We have 2 bookcases behind us.
Right.
Those could fall on us.
Yes, they could fall
So
on us.
you're not risking it.
I'm going to backtrack and not risk it.
Okay.
For right now, I'm going to say the entertainment value of this movie was supposed to be provided by Chrissy Hemme and his gonzo comedic performance.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear that is just not a thing that general audiences want. They didn't want it when he was playing the nerdy guy in Answer the Call.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want it when he was taken over for Will Smith in Ghostbusters, Men in Black International. They just clearly rejected it here, where it's, hey, come see this Mad Max movie where the entertainment's going to be provided by Chrissy Hemme, being wacky.
Yeah.
And that didn't help. So, yeah, Furiosa is a disaster. It's a disaster that makes other movies look better by comparison.
Yeah, although I don't like that.
Well, but it is what it is. That is happening. It's taken the heat off of the Fall Guy. It's making Garfield look
I always
look so
say,
much
though,
better than Garfield would have looked if Furiosa didn't exist.
I always say, though, the failure of other movies doesn't make other movies a success, right? So, like,
to you, but I do think
you
it
mean
takes
in public
the heat
perception.
off. The public
I
perception of
agree
Garfield is better in comparison.
Yeah, and I agree it takes the heat off Fall Guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a numbers thing. That's like a factual numbers thing, as opposed to something that's just in the ether. As you can put your finger on that.
Right.
I think an interesting sort of development here is if at $80 million.
And I will pat myself on the back, which you could see in a close-up camera right now on YouTube. I will pat myself on the back because I did have IF finishing ahead of Furiosa.
Did you?
I did. That was my big swing.
Had I stopped listening at that point?
Yeah, you tuned out, which we tune each other out all the time.
Yeah.
It's all white noise when the other one opens their mouth. But
yeah,
I did have IF coming in ahead of Furiosa. I mean, I was so done with Furiosa on our last preview episode.
And IF is pacing ahead of Free Guy at the same time. Now, you can't really use that in comparison because Free Guy was still pandemic-y times.
Yeah. Well, and also it was, which was both a negative, but I think for Free Guy was more positive because it pretty much had the summer to itself.
Yeah.
At that point, it was like the August of 2021. Free Guy became as much of a sensation as anything was going to become in those box office times, which I don't think is going to happen for IF. Big movies are going to open in the next few weeks. Inside Out 2 is going to open, and then IF is totally screwed.
But this is a original children's movie that is live action plus computer animation.
Yep.
And this thing could have been a complete tank job.
Yes, it could have been.
Open to nothing, made $30 million. It's Krasinski's done.
Yeah, Krasinski, he always had I'll direct another Quiet Place movie in his back pocket, but this was a risky move to switch genres from horror to original family movie.
Yeah.
That's a hard genre shift, and it hasn't hurt him.
Listen, if this thing ends up making close to $100 million domestic with a black market Grimace as the lead character, that's and tepid reaction from youngsters.
Yep. And Ryan Reynolds in a part where he wasn't playing Deadpool.
Yeah.
And wasn't playing the Deadpool Ryan Reynolds type. That's what I mean. It's obviously he wouldn't be allowed to. Well, I guess it's not obvious that he wouldn't be allowed to play Deadpool in the movie because they were allowed to use the character of Grimace in the movie.
Yeah.
But Ryan Reynolds in was not playing his Ryan Reynolds waiting snark guy. Two guys, a girl, and a pizza.
He didn't
place
get pegged.
And it still is doing well. It's got a shot at getting 100 million. So Krasinski has a clear success here.
Yeah. And I mean, that was not in the cards. Like that. I mean, that was like, there was a chance that was not going to be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, if was one of the bigger ifs.
Ifs was one of the bigger ifs. The Garfield movie, I think, looks so much better now.
Well, being number one.
It is just, when it all said and done, right now Garfield's at 51 million, Furiosa is at 49. But I would say a couple of weeks from now, that gap is going to get much wider. Garfield will have whipped Furiosa's ass by the end of their domestic runs.
Even with Inside Out coming out, I think you're seeing that If and the Garfield movie, both at the top, there's space for both. I think there's space for kids' movies at the same time.
Yep.
So just because Inside Out 2 is going to be out doesn't mean that If won't still have a few people going to see it. Garfield movie will still have some pause to it. You know, so I mean, I think that's the thing, is like they're able to share the market share here. So I don't think that as soon as Inside Out 2 comes out, Garfield is a furball.
No. I think If will fall down further. Garfield, I think, is going to hang pretty strong. And Garfield, listen, we were hoping this would be a huge breakout hit. You know, not Mario, obviously, and nothing close to that. But we thought it would be bigger than it is.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, you know, the budgets you're seeing are like 60 million. It's at 50 now.
Yeah.
I think it will be a successful venture for everyone involved.
But is there a Garfield 2?
Well, that's the thing, is
because this is supposed to be the beginning of a franchise.
Right.
And right now it's not looking that way.
Right.
So
that's
when you
the
talk
big problem,
about children's films,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times you talk franchise, right? Because you're talking Despicable Me.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking Minions.
Right. You're talking Ice Age.
You're talking Ice Ages.
Yeah, this is not going to be that. I think they got to cut and run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where Mario, you're like, I mean, Mario is going to have multiple sequels at this point.
Spin-offs, Donkey Kong, obviously.
Yeah.
Toad will get something. Toad's more of a web series.
You're going to get Kirby. You're going to get, you're going to get it all.
Yeah.
You're going to get all of it.
But I think Garfield, because we saw this with the Bill Murray movies, where the first one, terrible reviews. I think it did okay. I think that first one did 80 million domestic. That's where I'm going to guess. I'm assuming you're looking that up right now. But then the second Bill Murray Garfield, Tale of Two Kitties, the bottom fell out of that. I mean, I think that was a movie that domestically made 25 million or less.
Well, that's
total.
like the Tomb Raider trap that the great Scott Mendelson always talks about.
Yeah, I wonder if Scott, our tribal chief, Scott Mendelson, would acknowledge him. I wonder if Scott Mendelson would put the Bill Murray Garfield sequel, Tale of Two Kitties, in the Tomb Raider trap. I actually don't think it would apply, because the Tomb Raider trap also involves the second movie being much better than the first movie.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
And failing because of the receptions of the first movie. You know, that's, of course, Tomb Raider, but the
Horrible Bosses.
The second of the Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtles movies.
Turtle movies, yeah.
Where the second one was a great film.
A great film.
And the first one was a hit, but second
wasn't
one bombed
liked.
because, So I don't think Tale of Two Kitties, I think they're both bad movies, but the first one was just people wanted to see the Garfield IP, and so that one did pretty well. And then
Garfield 75 domestic.
The first one, okay.
And then Tale of Two Kitties 28. So
wow. So
close.
Off the top of the dome, pretty much nailed it, because I said the first one did 80 and the second one did 25, and I was off by 5 million or less. On
you just sort of moved some millions around.
Right.
But yeah.
So I think you've got to take your lesson from the Bill Murray Garfield series, which is the second one will totally bomb. If they make Garfield movie 2 with Chris Pratt, that movie will die at the box office.
Yeah, because the kids, they just don't want Garfield. They don't care about Odie.
They don't care about Odie. We don't talk about
is Normal in it?
I don't know if Normal's in it. And we don't talk about, and I know it's because he's not a animal character. He is a human.
John?
But John Arbuckle clearly means nothing at the box office.
Nothing.
John Arbuckle is not movie IP in any way. Could we safely say that John Arbuckle is worthless?
Yes.
That is worthless IP.
He is worthless. Yeah.
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 In the original movies, was it Breckenmeyer who played John Arbuckle?
Yeah.
And then do we know who does the voice of John Arbuckle in the Garfield movie?
That's a great question. It's probably somebody pretty big, I would think, right?
I mean, it might not be. It's not Sam Jackson, right? Sam Jackson is not doing the voice of John Arbuckle in these movies. Oh, it's Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult does the voice of John Arbuckle.
Wow.
I mean, this is an actor we both like, but it's another.
Renfield.
Yeah, it's another failure for Nicholas Hoult.
But when you think about it, okay.
Do we ding him for being the voice of John Arbuckle in the Garfield movie?
I think you take that gig.
Oh, you definitely take it. You definitely take it because you think.
I don't think this is a rejection of him.
Okay.
I think it's a rejection of Garfield.
Okay.
I think here he brought nobody to it.
Right.
Which says something.
Right.
But he also wasn't like, oh, I'm not seeing that. Do you know Nicholas Hoult is the voice of John Arbuckle?
Right. And people I mean, the thing he could hang his hat on in these last few years is the success of The Menu.
But I mean, that's limited success.
But I mean, that's where he's at, I think.
Yeah.
In that you're really reaching to find your Nicholas Hoult successes.
Mm-hmm.
And John Arbuckle was a swing you got to take. Anyone, that's anyone in life, you get offered the chance to play John Arbuckle, you got to take it, but he's never popped as a movie IP.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Garfield movie, I think, is a thing that looks good in comparison to what else is going on at the box office. It is going to do fine financially when all the downstreams. And I think it does help that it's a Sony movie, and Sony wrings every penny out of every downstream level.
Oh, this thing is going to be so huge on Netflix.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be huge on PVOD first.
Yeah.
And they'll make their money there. And then it's going to be, I mean, the Garfield movie will be the #1 movie on Netflix for 2 days and watch time or whatever the hell they use to measure that house of cards there.
Yeah.
So there's some other movies in this top 10 that we didn't touch on. And we didn't even touch on this in the preview episode last week.
Oh, we talk about this Crunchyroll movie.
There is a Crunchyroll movie that, according to the numbers, opens at number 7, 3.5. I mean, that is not nothing.
Yeah.
It's not nothing. These Crunchyroll movies, they, just like clockwork, continue to sell tickets. And it's not going to be Demon Slayer from spring
Dragon
of 2021 or Dragon Ball Z. But none of these theaters were turning their nose at Haiku the Dumpster Battle, making $3.5 million this week.
It made more than Summer Camp.
Yeah.
You know?
It made more than Summer Camp. I mean, obviously, anime Crunchyroll movies are a more successful genre right now than Diane Keaton, Women of a Certain Age films.
Yeah.
So,
well, unless they were in a dumpster battle, do you think that would have, if it would have been dumpster battle?
So if the Crunchyroll movie had been Haiku Summer Camp, I think it makes its same 3.5. And if Diane Keaton and Alfre Woodard and Kathy Bates had been in a movie called Dumpster Battle,
yeah,
I think it does better.
I think it does better.
I think the curiosity on seeing Diane Keaton and Kathy Bates in a dumpster battle.
I mean, the poster of them in a dumpster,
right,
would do better than that poster of them in front of a summer camp.
Yes. Well, because we have seen versions of this summer, reunite at summer camp movies in the past. When we were younger, when we were young Gen Xers.
When I was a young Gen Xer.
And also as I was, same generation, graduated college the same year.
That has no relevance.
Yeah, you're older, but graduated the same year, so how does that happen?
Yeah, check the laws in Pennsylvania.
But was it called Indian Summer? Was that the movie where it was like people years later they get back together at a summer camp? I feel like we've seen versions of this movie before, but we have never seen people reunite inside of a dumpster.
Well, it wouldn't even have to be a reuniting. It's just they're part of a dumpster battle, whatever that is.
Oh, okay. You don't think it's
there's
that
no
they're childhood
reunion.
friends reuniting in a dumpster?
I mean, there could be an angle there. I mean,
Right.
they could be getting back to dumpster battling after 40 years of not dumpster battling. I mean, that is a possibility.
I think that's the pitch because you could. I think what happens there is you could take the summer camp script and over a weekend you could adapt it to just be dumpster battle.
Well, it's
instead.
just find and replace.
Yes, yeah. Everywhere where it says camp, you change it to dumpster.
Yeah, and then you'd shoot whatever it is.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
you get is what you shoot.
Would you? Yeah, I think you could. You maybe there's certain foods that you would eat in a summer camp where it's like, oh, in this scene they all eat hot dogs, and then in dumpster battle you just change it. They all eat garbage.
Yeah,
yeah. They all eat newspapers.
Yeah.
So I think you switch the titles of those movies. The anime Crunchyroll movie does the same numbers.
Yep.
And I think the Diane Keaton dumpster battle movie does 2 million opening weekend instead of 1 million.
Okay. Double.
I think it does double.
Double for a dumpster.
I think the dumpster, and not all movies switching the location to a dumpster would do that.
Yeah.
But I think a movie that stars 2 Academy Award winning older actresses and an Academy Award nominated older actress, and you're promising they will be in a dumpster, I do think that doubles the opening weekend box office.
Plus Josh Peck,
right,
and Eugene Levy.
Right, you get and again, of course, this should have been American Pie. American Pie presents Dumpster Battle.
Yeah,
and it's pretty much the same script.
Yeah,
this movie does double the business.
Yeah.
What
and you just put a pie in the dumpster on the poster. It doesn't have to show up in the movie.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And is this the movie
you could just
where Casey Affleck returns to the American Pie franchise?
Yes.
Because of course, famously, he was the older brother in the original one where he had the original Book of Love.
Yeah.
And I think you get Casey Affleck to return in American Pie Presents Dumpster Battle, starring Alfre Woodard, Diane Keaton, Kathy Bates, and Eugene Levy, and Casey Affleck returns.
And he wasn't even with the kids in those movies anyway. He was on the phone with them. So he doesn't have to be on set.
No, he doesn't have to be on set. You film a scene where he's on a cup on a string, where he's one end, wherever you're filming it.
Yeah.
And the other end of the cup on a string is in the dumpster.
Yeah.
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 I think that movie does much better. So another movie in this top 10 that we didn't mention on the preview, I don't think, is a movie called Ezra from Bleecker Street Films.
Oh, I can't.
It's got Robert De Niro. It's got Robert De Niro.
Are we really at this point? It's summer, and we're talking about a Bleecker Street movie.
Yes. Well,
all right.
So on Twitter today, Bill Brasky, the great Bill Brasky, on Twitter X, he posted, he's a huge comedy guy and a huge box office guy, and he's a wannabe oh boy. And he posted something saying, I feel bad for all the, box office analysts and podcasters we're going to have to find a way to talk about this weekend, this, incredibly downbeat, no big movies coming out weekend. And I'm sure he's
fine.
And he's listening to us, and I'm sure he's like, of course I didn't mean the BO.
Yeah.
Of course I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're here, and we're about to talk about Ezra from Bleecker Street. And this movie, according to the numbers, opened up at number 9, made $1.1 million on 1,300 screens, a not great average of $897 per theater, per screen. This was a movie that Robert De Niro is starring in, and according to the synopsis I found, it is also stars Bobby Cannavale as a comedian. Comedian Max co-parents autistic son Ezra with his ex-wife And faced with crucial decisions about Ezra's future, Max and Ezra go on a life-changing cross-country road trip. I bring this up because it's a movie about a comedian. And it bombs.
Road comic.
And he is road comic.
Yeah.
It is a movie basically about how he is road comic. And is this another, we talked about nail in the coffin of these women of a certain age. Is this another nail in the coffin along with last year's Bert Kreischer's The Machine? Nail in the coffin in movies about stand-up comedians. Is Ezra throwing more dirt on the corpse of these men holding mics?
Yeah. I mean, I think there are certain protagonists in films that have always been really tough to root for, and rarely do they ever have hit movies. I mean, when you look at stand-up comedians,
right?
The closest thing, I mean, Punchline was a bomb. They had Sally Field and Tom Hanks playing comedians. That was a bomb.
And it was Tom Hanks before he was a star, but it was Tom Hanks post Splash.
It was
Tom Hanks pre the 90s run, pre League of Their Own.
Yeah.
But he was a very known comedy movie star.
Yeah.
And Punchline failed. I mean,
Funny People was underperformer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first miss for Judd Apatow and probably the first miss in a long time at that point for Sandler.
And Seth Rogen, obviously. So that didn't do well. Of course, The Machine was an utter failure.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of a hit stand-up not a stand-up as a actor in a movie, because obviously there have been plenty of those that have hit, but as the
character
occupation.
Yeah, as an occupation, yeah.
I mean, it's akin to gamers, where nobody wants to root for a gamer and nobody wants to root for a stand-up comedian in movies. I mean, look at De Niro in The Comedian.
Right.
Also a movie that did nothing at the theater.
Right.
Now, the only one that I could say maybe Joker. In Joker,
he is a stand-up
comedian. He is a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, but he is not road comic, in the way
he's a local comic.
Yeah, in Ezra, they're promising you that Bobby Cannavale is road comic.
Because the thing about this movie is that if he doesn't do at least 5 mics a night, he can't call himself a comic to the other comics.
Right.
So that's what makes this road trip so long, is that he is doing 5 sets every night, no matter where he is.
Right. And no matter what condition his son is in.
It doesn't matter, because he is road comic.
So, yeah, I think with Joker, I don't think that people went into that really think of that as a stand-up comedian movie. Though, I mean, listen, Joker, it's built into the DNA of a character that he has been a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
That he's done the mics.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in any of these Batman movies. Joker was the first movie where they really did focus on the early stand-up career of Joker. So you do have to give Joker that credit of being a hit movie with a stand-up comedian protagonist. But there's something to, it was a movie where the stand-up comedian wasn't meant to be rootable.
He was an anti-hero.
He was an anti-hero. And I don't think audiences ever want a movie that tries to tell them that stand-up comedians are
pure heroes,
or even people worthy of any sympathy, or anything other than disdain. Obviously King of Comedy wasn't a hit, but it is a classic lauded movie, but it's because it also tells you stand-up comedians are incredibly gross and unrootable, and deserve your scorn. And so people respond to that, but they don't want stand-up comedians to be talked about and portrayed as human beings.
Yeah. So I would say, if we're talking about that, a comedian as the pure protagonist, yes, it's dead.
It's dead. Yeah. Ezra did put the final dirt on the coffin of the stand-up comedian as a movie hero.
And I think before are we going to do any emails or anything?
I think we've got to do emails, because we have so many emails. Oh my God. As I just right now, as I check our email account, we just got a brand new boots on the ground school survey from Javier.
Oh, okay. This is huge. But we really quickly have to touch on Young Woman in the Sea. And the reason why
Oh, wow.
is because Disney
What a huge weekend this was. My
Disney
God.
saved this from Disney Plus. And you would think, good for Disney. They're finally
Yep.
taking a page from Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
putting their movies in theaters, right? But they did not so it looks like this movie made $500K
Okay.
per industry estimates. That's because Disney isn't reporting grosses on this movie.
Wow.
So they're saying we're putting this in theaters, but only because now, rightfully,
Mm-hmm.
the Oscars are not playing by COVID rules, and they're saying you have to be a movie in theaters
Yeah.
again.
Right.
And so they're thinking, well, maybe Daisy Ridley will be up for Best Actress. Not going to happen.
Definitely not gonna happen. But it's cute
So
they thought that.
It's cute that they thought that, but it's also disrespectful to us
Mm-hmm.
to not give these numbers. You
Mhm.
can't play the Netflix game. I mean, it's the Netflix game. It's
Right.
putting a movie in theaters and then just not telling us how much it makes.
Now something like Hitman from Netflix, I think, is in 10 or 20 theaters nationwide. We have no idea how that's doing. And
No.
I would be so interested because, I mean, I went to a sold-out showing of it.
I tried to see it at the Paris and it was sold out
And it was sold out. So that movie probably is doing
really well.
numbers that would be... listen, if we're getting numbers for Babes, I would be curious to get the numbers for Hitman and see if that's beaten Babes. And
Well,
beat
the
some of
theater-
these-
the theater-
Is it beaten Ezra?
The
I think Hitman... I would say
beat
Hitman
Ezra's
is better
ass.
than Ezra.
Yeah. I think the per theater average would be really interesting
Yep.
with Hitman.
Yes, the per theater average would be fascinating. Fascinating.
But of course, they don't care. Because they don't want us like the putting this Daisy Ridley movie in theaters has nothing to do with wanting people to interact with each other, enjoy the theatrical experience.
No.
It's all about maybe we have something here that will be critically acclaimed after we've just been drubbed like here and there about the quality of our movies. Like this seemed like a movie that maybe, since Boys in the Boat did really well, we talked about this earlier.
Right.
They're like, well, maybe people will actually like this movie as opposed to all the Disney movies that have come out in the past few years that
Right.
nobody liked.
Right.
Other than maybe, and I'll say it, Elemental, people
Yep.
sort of like that movie. But that's the closest thing to liking a Disney movie that has happened in what? A year and a half, 2 years?
Right. Right. So here's the other reason why I think they put The Young Woman in the Sea in theaters is, like you said, it's just to be able to say we're giving it an Oscar campaign.
Yeah.
And it's specifically, I think, to try and get, and not that Daisy Ridley has become some kind of like big movie star, it just hasn't happened.
I think I know where you're going.
But to get Daisy Ridley to agree to be in some D+ Star Wars TV series.
Mm-hmm.
This is their way of, look, we put Young Woman in the Sea in movie theaters and it's qualified for the Oscars, and maybe you'll get an Oscar, Daisy.
Yeah.
And by the way, would you like to do this 10-episode series where you meet Grogu?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it's you mothering baby Yoda.
Yeah.
And you get her, this is the fig leaf that you give her to get her in some kind of D+ series.
Yeah.
Where she's training Jedi and, you know, baby Yoda sucking on her teeth.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you're gonna go there, but
I'm saying this is the kind of thing that a Star Wars
yeah.
staff writer would write because they're like, we got to stretch this thing to 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And so the nursing needs to be
At least 3 out of the 10 episodes.
Yes. So I think that is why you're seeing Young Woman in the Sea get this vanity theatrical release where they're not reporting numbers.
And
it's all part of getting Daisy Ridley in a Star Wars series.
Which is despicable. I mean, talking about multiple despicable acts we've been talking
That's a
about
despicable act.
in this episode.
Yeah, that's a despicable act. So shall we
Crack open the mailbag.
let's crack open the mailbag.
Let's do it.
So, looking at some of these, okay, let's go to Colin. So, wannabe oh boy Colin says, the subject is, are non-IP movies dead? Hi guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi guys. Wannabe oh boy and Minifan Phil McCooch here. I think I called into Kirk Minahan's show last year about non-IP movies. It's wild to me that the writers had much time during the pandemic to come up with new concepts. Same thing with the strike. I think most non-IP movies are going to streaming. I don't think the box office is dead. I think non-IP movies are dead. So this is obviously a big, big topic. We could do a 10-hour miniseries on IP movies. I mean, just by what's out right now, you know, Fall Guy, even though that's technically IP, it's not really IP because no one remembers.
It is IP. I mean,
it is IP.
If is a non-IP movie.
And If is doing better than Garfield.
Yeah.
If is doing better than Furiosa.
Mm-hmm.
If is doing better than Fall Guy, if you want to count Fall Guy's IP. So the example we have right now of a non-IP movie is doing better than any non-IP movie in the top 10 that doesn't have the apes in it.
Yeah.
So obviously Hollywood has been IP crazy for years and years and years.
Yeah, years and years and years.
And we don't have great examples of totally non-IP movies hitting, but I think, you know, there's no hard and fast rules where that doesn't change.
Yeah.
With the right movie hitting in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Avatar 2 is IP, Avatar 1 was not IP.
Yeah.
And that's one of the, 3 biggest movies of all time.
Well, the thing is,
it's like, if you get the right new thing, it'll be a giant hit.
Well, that's what I was going to say is original IP turns into hit IP.
Right.
If it succeeds. So that's the thing.
Right.
Is that when you talk about Inside Out, I mean, Inside Out 2, that was original IP.
Yes.
And now it's a sequel. And so, because it was a success.
Right. So it's obviously studio executives are going to want to go with the safest choice. They're going to want IP. It gives them cover.
Yeah.
But there'll be, Quiet Place Day 1 opens in a few weeks. And that's because Quiet Place 1 was a totally original movie from the mind of John Krasinski and was a huge hit.
Yeah.
So I don't think original movies are going anywhere as a rule.
But for a long time, they haven't been predominant in Hollywood. I mean, I think that's been going on for a very, very long time.
Right. Let's move on to a email we got from wannabe oh boy Eric, and subject, AMC Lincoln Square guy also doesn't like Anya Taylor-Joy's short hair.
Yeah.
Hey guys. I saw Furiosa today in Dolby. I loved it. The ticket taker told me that he is not a fan of Anya with short hair and prefers it long. Another thing he told me he wasn't a fan of was Zendaya with her Dune nose ring in. Clayton is alive and can I think he says I hope. Clayton is alive and can receive this update about this guy who I'm sure is the same one that told him he doesn't like Kristen Stewart with the short hair. This also raises the question, does he say this to everyone seeing the movie? Does he only say it to men? And that's from Eric. So
that is a great question.
He did write this in before, I guess, the last episode where you were presumed dead. And yes, Eric now knows that you are alive and on camera with your own close-up cam. So
yeah. So I think this is indubitably the same gentleman.
Okay.
There's no way it's not.
Okay.
I doubt there are multiple ticket takers who are constantly commenting on the physical appearances of the actresses in movies.
And specifically their haircuts.
Yeah. And their face jewelry, because he did talk about Zendaya's face jewelry.
Right.
I think he probably says this to everybody. As sort of misogynist as the comments are, I don't think he exclusively says it to men. I think he says it to women as well.
Oh, okay.
Because I just think he wants to voice his opinion about the physical appearance of women to anyone who will listen.
Okay.
And he has a captive audience because he is, ripping your ticket.
Right.
Listen, I don't I don't feel any ill will against this gentleman.
Okay.
I do think it is irresponsible as a ticket taker to say something completely negative about a movie right from the jump in that way
Before you get to
before you get
experience
to
it.
experience it.
It's like electioneering. You know, it's like you shouldn't be outside of a election polling area.
Trying to dissuade somebody or
Yes,
or,
before they go in, right?
yeah.
Like 5 feet away from the public school where you're going to cast your vote, you can't have anyone trying to affect the voters there, and you can't do it at the ticket area in a movie theater.
Because AMC Lincoln is consistently one of the highest grossing theaters in the country.
Yes. It wasn't the case for summer camp. That was Asheville, but
Yeah,
usually
but
it's a
most
huge
of the time, AMC Lincoln.
Yep.
And so if you're somebody who's going into Furiosa and you're on the fence, and you're thinking, okay, I don't know how I feel about this movie. I'm not sure. And the first thing you hear about this movie is that I don't like Anya Taylor-Joy with short hair. You go into that movie and you're thinking, how short is the hair?
Right.
Like, is it really short? I mean,
Right.
how short are we talking here? Is it short? I mean, is it shaved?
Right. Well, Fury Road, it should tell you actually that it's going to be.
Yeah. And so you're like, okay, now I'm hung up on this.
Right.
Now I'm not. Now I'm taken out of the character even more so.
Right.
Because you're not thinking like, oh, is she doing as good as Charlize Theron did in this part? You're thinking, does short hair work on her?
Yeah.
And that takes you completely out of it.
Right.
And you're watching Dune, and Dune is a movie that is just like so much great sci-fi special effects, the grandeur of the scenery and the sound and everything, and you're staring at the chain, or you're staring because I don't even think it's but it's not even it's a oxygen thing. Like it's not even face jewelry, right? Zendaya has
it serves a purpose for the character.
Yeah, so she doesn't die. And if you're focusing on that and not focusing on the grandeur, now that didn't hurt Dune 2.
Right.
But still, like, I think there's enough evidence of like Love Lies Bleeding was the movie he said. And
that was with the Kirsten Stewart movie that you saw that he commented on her hair.
Yes.
Not being
and I'll tell you what, I didn't like that movie. And it's not because of her hair, but also
who knows?
Maybe it got in my head.
I think it did because I had heard so many other people say that they loved seeing Love Lies Bleeding, and that was one that you should have been in the bag for.
Most anticipate.
It was your most anticipated movie of the year, and when you gave it a bad review to me after seeing it, I was like, something's got to be up.
Yeah.
And it could have been this ticket taker getting in your head about Kristen Stewart's hair beforehand. I think that's very possible. So, listen, I'm sure a lot of ticket takers listen to this show. Don't comment on the hairstyling of a actress or actor or person in the movie on the way in. On the way out,
be like, what'd you think of Kristen Stewart's hair?
Exactly.
And then it could be like,
then it's a conversation.
Yeah, then it's a conversation. And then I got to witness the hair in motion.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to an email we got from Magellan. So Magellan says, subject is the real reason day and date releases hurt theatrical. A day and date releases hurt theatrical. Hey, long time, first time wannabe oh boy Magellan, 25-year-old male. Here are the boots on the ground report. I just want to preface by saying this is totally coming from a friend, and I have no part in this illegal activity.
All right.
I was listening to an older episode to realize you never mentioned a hidden reason why day and date releases on streaming services hurt box office numbers. The reason is as soon as movies are in the digital world, they are also instantly available on illegal streaming websites. In contrast, movies that are only released in theaters are only there in cam format, which means that a person filmed the theater screen and the quality is unwatchable. When my friend, not me, and his frat boys want to watch a new movie together, they first go to see if the movie is available online, and if it is, they watch it on Discord together. I have heard of Discord.
Yeah.
If, on the other hand, the movie is only released in theaters, they all go to the theater together. For example, they all stay at home and watch Five Nights at Freddy's and Immaculate on Discord, but they were forced to go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at the theater. I imagine in this case a lot of bros in the United States. This would explain why day and date release of movies could be affecting box office numbers, even if it's a horror movie, since youngsters can experience it together virtually on Discord. I can only imagine the numbers these movies would do if they were theatrical releases only. P.S. The popularity of watching movies on Discord greatly increased during COVID, so this may be another way which the pandemic negatively affected theaters. That's from Magellan. Magellan, thank you for that perspective. Now, I will say, I feel like we have talked about the effect that rips of digital movies could have. We definitely have not talked about Discord as that being the place where people watch them.
That I know what it is, but that word has never escaped my lips in a public forum.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes. So we have not talked about bros watching movies on Discord. But that was very interesting to hear that bros do check Discord first, and then if it's not on Discord, they're forced to see it in a movie. That is in a theater. That's very interesting. And I love that they go together as a group.
That's great. I love the bros being with bros.
Yep.
A few things. We did talk about that a lot during the COVID era of day and date releasing, especially all the Warner Brothers movies, like especially Wonder Woman 1984 was a big one that we talked about when it came to that.
Yeah. I think that we talked about it in terms of it's going to show up on DVDs, in Times Square.
I talked about the Pirates. I definitely talked about the Pirates. I talked about the Pirates more than you talked about the Pirates.
Yeah.
Now, an interesting thing in that email.
But you're from right outside Pittsburgh,
so I'm always thinking about the Pirates.
Yeah.
How are the Pirates doing this season? How are they going to do?
Right.
Is this the year? This the year?
Right. How's Andy Vance like?
Yeah. He's still alive.
Yeah.
Still alive and kicking.
Yeah.
How's Spanky LaValliere? Probably dead.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting that Immaculate was available on Discord because that was not a day and date release. So somehow there was a Immaculate version of that available for them to watch.
It could have been quickly on PVOD.
And so, so we're talking about movies with small windows as well.
Small windows.
So not day and date necessarily, but small windows.
Yeah.
Which I agree with as well, is that if the window is small, that also means that it can, dig into the people going to the theater.
Right.
But we have found that most day and date movies, like how much of the Discord bro money did Five Nights at Freddy's lose out on? That movie opened to 80. Are there enough bros to make up $10 million that movie, like, could that have possibly been $100 million opener if the bros weren't on Discord?
That is an interesting one, and we're going to have our tribal chief, Scott Mendelson, on soon. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And that is something to ask him. I would feel like he seems to be pretty adamant in that day and date doesn't really affect the box office. That all these movies, it could be, I think his number is usually 5% or something.
Yeah.
So the Five Nights at Freddy's example specifically, I do wonder if that movie had any chance of hitting $100 million opening weekend had it only been theatrical only.
Yeah.
Because obviously the bros were not watching it on Peacock.
No.
But the Peacock stream allowed it to be ripped and put on Discord so the bros could watch it on Discord.
Yeah.
And was there $20 million worth of bros watching on Discord that movie could have won from 82 million opening weekend to 100?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
It's a great question.
I mean, Magellan, I think, would think so.
I think just in general.
And Magellan's 25 years old, so he knows. He knows what these bros are watching and where they're watching.
And I think in general, day and date is stupid and doesn't work. There's no need for it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't.
Post-COVID, it doesn't. You don't need to do it.
Why would you do it? Is it
really
really boosting the Peacock subscription numbers?
It's not.
I don't think so. Peacock's numbers were boosted by the NFL playoff game and WrestleMania.
And WWE. Yeah.
So we got an email from one of our faves, Reed. So Reed says, where's the succession plan? These last 3 episodes have taught me that the BO boys don't have a succession plan. So I'd be worried that a BO boy, BO girl, BO person would try to kneecap you Tanya Harding style. I guess only Gen X will get that reference, thus not sure what you would understand. And I guess he means that
you would
Pat
understand.
reads all the emails I read. Feel free to cry out a Nancy Kerrigan. Why? Love the show. Read. Okay, so
Well, can I speak to this?
sure, as a fellow Gen Xer, sure.
Well, no, I'm just going to speak to this as part of the succession plan or not part of the succession plan, obviously, because Pat already talked about his succession plan. His succession plan is that when I die, I'm replaced by a series of freaks until that runs out of novelty, and then Pat goes solo. That is your succession plan.
The Mike Francesa.
You're in the
succession
Francesa succession plan. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
So we do have a plan. It's just not an optimal plan for me or Christopher or Jack.
And listen, within that parade of freaks, someone truly will. They do have the opportunity to rise above the fray.
But they'll never rise above you.
No, of course not. Of course not. But I mean, there is the chance that in the end, I don't choose to just go solo and I do choose a permanent host. But yes, my plan is when Clayton is gone, there will be a parade of freaks for at least 6 months on the show.
Yeah.
And the entertainment value for that will be off the charts.
Yeah. So there is a succession plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is just a series of maniacs that I get on microphone here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be great and everyone's going to love it.
So
now if something ever happens to me, which I'm in great shape, but obviously Reed did bring up the idea that could be walking the street one day and someone pulls a Jeff Gillooly, you know, and I guess they'd have to like cut our tongues out. Like if they hit us in the knee,
whatever, we can do this.
we could do this. If they, you know, snuck up on us and did a snip on our tongues, then sure, then that takes me out of it if that happens to me. So there is the chance of that. And, you know, celebrities are out there in New York City, you know, getting randomly punched. We had that with Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
We had that with Michael Stuhlbarg.
Well, maybe.
Oh, we think that he maybe that was on a Kirk exclusive.
Yeah.
We did theorize that he set that up so you could chase
as
person out.
promotion to become an old man action star.
But let's go with the idea that this is happening.
Moranis, the OG.
Rick Moranis has gotten attacked. So counting myself as a New York celebrity, who knows? Say that happens and I get taken out and it's just Clayton. What is the succession plan there? Is it even worth trying, or is that the end of the show? That's where I am at.
Wow.
Is it if I'm the one who gets taken out, then I don't know if there is a show.
I feel like I would be so sad.
Right.
It'd be hard for me to continue, but I don't think that's the same thing for you. I think if it happens, say it happens on a day, like say I pass on a day that is a show day.
Yes.
You might not have a show that day. So you might miss one show.
Oh, I think I would. I think it would be tougher for me to have a show 2 days after you pass because like there'd be a conflict with the funeral services. Yeah, but the day of the show, it's just I mean, at that point, I'm just getting a phone call.
It's a text to Christopher.
Yeah. It's like your body's in a morgue. What am I supposed to do?
There's really nothing you can do.
There's nothing I could do, so I just get on mic.
Yeah.
It's more as if you passed on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And then your funeral services are on a Monday, you know, then it might conflict with the recording schedule.
Best case for you then is it's a holiday weekend, so then you can do a funeral on Monday and you're off work.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday you're back on mic talking about the 4-day weekend.
Yes. That would be ideal. But, you know, I think day of, if I find out in the morning, it's not like I'm going to have any funeral duties to do that night.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, for you would be sad. You would be sad that I died. So you probably wouldn't be able to do a show for a long time.
I would probably need a few weeks.
Yeah. And then I think the other issue would be just various logins that you would not have access to, and that would just be a logistical problem
Yeah.
for you in terms of continuing the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
It'd be a password problem.
it would be a yes. That would be my problem. Yeah, your problem would be a password problem. Let's go to
Javier?
Javier. Yeah, we got an email from Tyler that we're going to talk about on the next episode because it is Bad Boys 4 related. So
Okay.
Tyler, thank you for that email, but we'll get to that on the preview episode for Bad Boys. So let's go to this Javier email that came in during the show, and we'll close out with this because these are always great. So Boots on the Ground School Survey, June 2024.
This is
Dear BO
huge.
Boys, was able to get some surveys for the summer months before classes wrapped, and these are the results for June. This one included Bad Boys Ride or Die, The Watchers, Inside Out 2, A Quiet Place Day 1, and Horizon and American Saga. Inside Out 2 led all of them, while Quiet Place came in a close second, as they both got the most check marks by a landslide.
Okay.
The Watchers came in third, Horizon came in fourth. Bad Boys Ride or Die got 0 check marks, with the majority of people not having heard of it and asking me what it was.
Wow.
To be fair, I know some friends that didn't do the survey who are looking forward to it, and my dad is stoked for it. I don't think Javier, though, goes to college with his dad. So
No.
it's great that his dad is stoked for it, but that doesn't really tell us any info about college students being
No.
excited for it. So he continues, I expect Inside Out 2 and Quiet Place, both of which seem to draw a lot of enthusiasm from my peers, to do really well and rule the month. As for Bad Boys, while I don't think it's completely doomed, I do wonder how much appeal the franchise has for younger audiences. As always, I'm curious to hear what you guys think and keep up what you do. Want to be oh boy, Javier. And Javier, I think it's Wake Forest, right? Is where
Yeah.
he goes to school and does these surveys.
Great surveys.
Thank you. I'm going to say this straight down the barrel, right into my close-up camera here on YouTube. Thank you, Javier, for what you are doing. You are a shining light for the youth of Box Office America. Thank you for doing these surveys.
Thank you.
And I will say this here. Part of the succession plan for Clayton is you will be in the parade of freaks that I have sit next to me to audition, audition in quotes, because in the end, I'm going to just choose myself as a co-host. But you have earned that right to be in that parade. Thank you, Javier. I say this
Wow.
direct to camera on our YouTube channel. So
That's
there
big.
we go. That's
Good
big.
for you, Javier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course we're going to get into Bad Boys because that is just a huge question mark for me.
Yeah.
But Inside Out 2 looking strong.
Yeah.
Quiet Place looking strong.
Yep.
I mean, these are things I think we both sort of thought already.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear it from youngsters.
Yeah. And the Inside Out thing is the more you think about it, this was a survey of college kids. Inside Out 1 came out in what, 2015, right? Summer 2015. Yep. So kids who were between, 8 and kids between like 7 to 12 years old then, that is 8-9 years ago, they're in college or post-college, directly out of college now. So kids with a fondness for that movie are college age. That movie could just be
now. This girl
nailing
isn't the
themselves.
girl from Inside Out. That is the stuff is in her body is now in high school.
Is
correct?
now in high school. Yep.
But I think you're close enough as a college kid to high school.
Yeah.
That you would relate. Like you're close enough to that age of that kid.
Yeah.
That now you're like, oh, I remember this happening just 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same
college
way it was
kids
when
loved
they were
American
little.
Pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be huge. We'll talk a lot about Bad Boys on our next episode, but the fact that they didn't know what this was.
Well, the fact that
is stunning.
Horizon got more
Yeah.
checks.
Yeah.
Now, I think Horizon is an oldster play almost the whole way.
Right.
But the fact that any college kids are excited about that is exciting to me.
Yes. Yes. Well, listen, Yellowstone is a big watch it with your parents over the holidays.
Yep.
So that we could play this for 6 hours straight and I don't have to, talk to them about whether I'm smoking doobs or not.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to translate to awareness of Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Javier. Great email. We'll be talking more about Bad Boys Ride or Die, Bad Boys 4 on our next episode with special guest podcast Jesus Kirk Minahan is joining us for the Bad Boys preview episode. That's going to be huge. So email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Clearly, we love getting your emails. So send us boots on the ground reporting, predictions, things that ticket takers said to you at movie theaters, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on social media, Twitter X, TikTok, WannaBO senior intern Christopher, killing it with the vertical video clips there. Just bang up job there, and that is why he will also be in the Parade of Freaks in the post-Clayton succession plan someday. And he's vying for the new title of VP of Interns. That's the big promotion that we're dangling in front of him. And, of course, WannaBO junior intern Jack. He brought back the Substack. He's on a short leave right now to tend to other duties, but he has been writing up a storm on the Substack.
Which is okay with Pat.
I love it.
Okay. Wasn't okay for me, but it's okay for him.
And, go to our Substack because the Jack articles are there, but I've been writing articles this past week. I wrote, of course, 3 things we could learn from the opening weekend of Garfield. I also just wrote a brand new article talking about a world that we could have been living in, a world in which Hitman opens to in over 3,000 theaters, a wide release for Hitman had it not been bought by Netflix. I take us through what that world would be like, and you got to read that article on the BO Boys Substack. I picked up the pen again, and people are loving it.
Bill Simmons hasn't done that.
Bill Simmons,
the pen is down forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who once they get behind this mic, great writers get behind the mic, and I get it because you get behind the mic like we are, and you're fantastic at it like we are and I am. You forget that you also were a great writer. And I have not forgotten that. I'm writing on the BO Boys Substack. So subscribe, follow, check out the writings there. And of course, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And tickets to our live tour are on sale right now. The LA show on October 8th is the only one you can buy tickets for. So go buy tickets for that.
We wanna sell this out. Okay. Let me just speak right now because there seems to be plenty of time. You're thinking, okay, this isn't for a few months. But when you think that way, you miss out because things can sell out.
Right.
In fact,
and will sell out. So yeah, buy your tickets now. The link in the show notes, the LA show. We've got Scott Mendelson. We've got Jeff Bach.
First time ever together.
First time ever together, as far as I know. Well, definitely on stage. I don't think either of them have been on stage much, and they've not been on stage together.
We don't know if they've ever been together. So to our knowledge, it's the first time they've ever been in the same room together.
It is actually very possible that these two box office titans, Jeff Bach and Scott Mendelson, have never met. And they will be on a panel on stage with the BO Boys on our live show at the Yard Theater on October 8th.
And it may never happen again.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are all possibilities.
Yeah. Or this could be the beginning
of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah. So either way, it's going to be
They
dynamic.
move in together, and it's box office talk all the time.
Right. This is
as platonic roommates.
This could be the start. This could be what revives the sitcom genre. Is when Hollywood, because we're going to be doing this in the middle of Hollywood.
Yeah.
When these executives, these agents, they come to the BO Boys live and they see the chemistry between Jeff Bach of Exhibitor Relations Co. and Scott Mendelson, and they say 9 p.m. Thursday nights, NBC, must-see TV.
Because it's usually odd couple shows that people try to pitch, but what about two guys who are super interested in the same thing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's never been done.
It's never been done. So you got to come to the BO Boys live, October 8th, Yard Theater, LA. Jeff Bach and Scott Mendelson meeting for the first time on stage.
That's huge.
Huge. Of course, we're going to be in Boston on Saturday, November 16th with Kirk Minahan as our guest. Those tickets not on sale yet, so everyone get ready, though. You got to hover above your keyboard to get first in line to buy those tickets. And, of course, on Tuesday, October 22nd in New York City, we're going to be at the Parkside Lounge. Those tickets have not gone on sale yet, but they will go on sale very soon. And special guests on that one. It's going to be a huge show. But right now, LA tickets, October 8th, those are on sale. And 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And, of course, We are YouTubers. If you've only been listening to the podcast on the podcast feed, you're only getting half the story. I mean, right now I'm waving into a close-up cam. I'm pointing at
Hey,
one.
guys.
Clint's saying, "Hey guys." So you gotta subscribe and watch us on YouTube. We're not gonna be in the studio every episode.
No.
But we are going to get down here more often and make use of these close-up cams because this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just looking right at you right now. It's fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, I think we covered it. What an episode. My God. I mean, Bill Brasky right now has got to be standing up and clapping because he thought there was nothing you could say on this weekend, and instead we just gave another classic jam-packed episode.
Yeah. And with that, I don't think there's anything left to say.
No, nothing. I've got to get out of here. There's nothing left to say.
Except for, until next time, we'll smell you at the box office. Nailed it.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.